because I was living my life the way that I thought I was supposed to be living it. I also expected people to be who I thought they were supposed to be. And I think one of the biggest changes is when we started determining who would be successful in the roles for the company. What type of person could be their authentic self and thrive and succeed in the role. And so we actually adopted a tool called Predictive Index. And there's a lot of personality and working assessment tools out there. And we got way more specific around, hey, we want, if you can't be yourself and be successful in this role, then it would not be a win for you or for us to proceed in that relationship. And so I think that's one of the things that I got a lot better at was accepting who I am and my strengths and how I show up and work in the business and being authentic to myself, but also doing our best to do that for others in the company as well.
This is Get Unstuck Podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who prioritize their life first, business second. I'm Mutita Panmuk, your host, who dedicates my life to designing and building a business that supports lifestyle. We will learn together from entrepreneurs around the world how they overcome their life challenges, their business obstacles, and yet still get unstuck from the hamster wheel of burying themselves into their business. Because time is the number one commodity in the world that you cannot get back once it's gone. So let's shorten the learning curve and see how can we prioritize better. Let's get unstuck. Hi, Get Unstuck Nation. So our guest today, he owns the best performance marketing agency for authentic brands. So please welcome Jake Baadsgaard, founder and CEO of Disruptive Advertising, where they help connect your personal why with your company why. So, hey, Jake, happy to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. So your marketing agency is like something that we are looking forward to interview really, because like there's not many marketing agency that spoke about performance marketing this day, first of all. And secondly, is like you really work with authentic brands. We were talking about it offline and like we really work with the brand that we believe in. So we are aligned on that.
Yes.
So let's going back to very general question first, because I would love to know more about you. How did you get into this entrepreneurial journey though?
Yeah, it's interesting because I started the agency about 11 years ago.
11 years.
So in many ways, it feels like multiple lifetimes at this point. But ultimately, I had a moment where I was getting an annual review in my corporate job, and as a top performer in the department, and they were excited to tell me how good of a job I did, and that would get me like an 8% raise for the year. And I'm like, oh wow, this just totally isn't doing it for me anymore. Like this, like I'm just ready to grow faster than they're going to be able to keep pace with me here. And so I wasn't upset, I wasn't frustrated, but I realized that if I wanted to grow at the rate that I wanted to, I was going to need to create that for myself. So that was kind of my moment of realization. But, I look back on my whole lifetime and I've been doing entrepreneurial since I was a kid, coming up with business ideas and wheeling and dealing and figuring things out. I think it was only a matter of time, but that was the turning point in my career.
Do you think that you just jump out right away, or you like creating the parallel line between like building your business alongside your corporate job?
Yeah, so I actually built up enough side business along the way so that making that jump wasn't as big of a risk for me and my family to do. And so that made the transition a little bit easier for me. I also had another business that I had done in the meantime before starting the agency that was fairly short-lived, but fairly lucrative. And so it allowed us to pay off some debt, have some money saved up. At that point, I was doing freelancing on the side and had built a decent book of business. And so the timing was very good for me to do that without taking more risk than I was still uncomfortable, but it was an amount of risk that I could tolerate.
Wow. So our audience have two gaps, right? Like those who like aspiring entrepreneurs. So maybe like at the point where when you just started back in the days, they have been thinking about starting their own business. So they are in the transition period. And those who like at the point where they are stuck in the hamster wheel. So these are two group of audience that we are having currently. So speaking to those who are at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, then how much sacrifice that you were expect or you didn't unexpectedly having like in your mind back in the days that you have to put in to make this work?
It's interesting. I think that there I didn't know that it was going to become an agency. At first I thought, oh, this is just some side work that I can do to make some extra money. Oh, this is going a little better. I'm getting a few more clients. This is getting kind of hard to juggle, right? Like, I actually think that life flows a lot better when you stay on the edge of your abilities and you stay on the edge of your risk tolerance. Because otherwise, if you're overly complacent and seek too much security, you're not going to feel very satisfied in your life. And if you're taking too much risk, if you're going too hard and too fast, you're just going to burn out and become kind of a crazy, like, emotional person. And I've experienced both, by the way. So, but I just think that your heart always knows the right step to take. So just take the next step. You don't need to worry about what's 10 steps from now. That almost kind of just takes care of itself. And so I actually didn't think, here's the exact plan and here's how it has to go. And here's all the things that need to line up and then I'll do it. It's like, it kind of just slowly took care of itself.
So then when did you know that you will make it to become an agency? Because that's a big shift though, from like a freelance to become an agency, because it's totally different responsibility, to be honest.
Yes. What I realized is that for my nature and my strengths is freelance was not going to work for me long term. It was an opportunity to make a little bit more money and to have a little bit more choice of how I was spending my time and the types of projects that I would work on. But I'm extroverted. I like to spend time with people. I always felt a little bit like I was on the outside looking in with the teams and companies that I was working with. And I'm like, and I never knew where the next sale was coming from. I didn't like all the details, the billing, the following up, there was a lot of aspects that I'm like, this is not going to work for me long term. And so for me, the decision came, I had a conversation with my wife and I said, we've either kind of just got to go all the way and turn this into a business, or like, I do need to just go find another job type thing. And so that was kind of the critical point. But I had built up a big enough book of business that it felt like reasonable that I could turn it into a business at that point. And my strength is marketing and sales. And so I'm like, if I spent more time focused on sales and could get some help fulfilling and executing on our client work, then this actually could probably work. And then I second guessed myself for like the first 3 years of starting the business.
3 years.
I'm like, why did I do this again? I'm making less money and working harder than when I was just freelancing. Because then I had to keep putting like growing the business and deciding if I should take more money out or invest it in growing the business. And it felt stressful and it was hard. And so it's not like the easier path, and it's not even always the most lucrative path, but I knew it was the right path for me to be on.
How did you feel like when it's the right path? Like, how did you make peace with yourself, let's say? Because that is harder.
Yeah. You know, I'm just laughing because when I reflect on that time, it's just kind of my sweet spot of I like not knowing. I have a pretty high risk tolerance. I like feeling challenged. I like figuring it out. I complain about it sometimes, that it feels hard and stressful, but I just know that that's where I do my best work. And I just really liked knowing that my success was kind of dependent on me and not on the business I was working for or other people. Like, I just kind of liked that I was in charge of my own fate. And that's, I think, what ultimately felt the most empowering. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't worried all the time and second guessing myself, but I still knew it was the right thing. And so I just kept working at it.
So high skill, high challenge keep you in the flow state.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
That's keep you working every single day, isn't it? I can relate to that. But do you ever feel like anxious and like overworked sometimes? Or you didn't consider that overworked? Just want to know. Because you also have family, right? And you also have kids. How do you
I have 4 children.
4 children. Okay.
Yeah. And I actually go through cycles of burnout. For sure. It is my personality to test how far I can push things until something breaks. And
do you really test that?
Sometimes that's my health. Sometimes that's my relationship. Sometimes that's my business. It's like my personality likes to test the limits and see where those limits are. And until I experience it for myself, I'm like, my wife describes it as my immersive personality. And that I kind of just need to feel and know for myself. And that's how I do it.
So did you do it again? I mean, like, not repeatedly, but like you just tested it to be able to tell other people, or what is it for? I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah. So like one example would be the first stage of growing the business, we would sign up anyone that would work with us because I wanted to see how far could we grow the business? How big could we make it? How fast could we get there? Until I didn't like my business anymore. Like I tested the limits of that and I'm like, I don't like working with this many brand new businesses that don't know who they are and what they want. And like, this is stressful and this isn't fun. And this is like, I totally found the limit of what we wanted to do there. And now I'm like, what do? I don't love my business as much anymore. And I over prioritized my business to the point where my physical health was struggling, my emotional and my mental health was not in a good place. My marriage was struggling. And so it was like, I went super hard in that direction until I realized it wasn't working. And that was an epiphany moment for me with my business where I thought, okay, this isn't working. This isn't what I thought it was. And now I know, now I know that's the case. So it's time to start making some.
How did you step back and reevaluate the situation and figure out what exactly do you want and feeling like you will enjoy it again?
Well, it was kind of a do or die situation.
Do or die? Okay.
From the standpoint of my marriage was not working very well at the time as a result of the way that I was living my life. And so, and I wasn't happy either. And it was in a marriage counseling session where I had a big epiphany that I was using my business success as a tool to justify why I was not the problem at work, in my marriage, in anywhere, because I didn't want to take responsibility. I didn't want to make the hard decisions. I didn't want to take responsibility for how I was contributing to the problem. I kind of wanted to blame it on everybody else. The problem isn't out there. I need to solve what's going on the inside if I want to see change on the outside, right? And so that's when I apologized to my wife and I said, I'm not going to try to fix you anymore. It's time for me to focus myself and addressing what I need to address and work on myself, right? That's when I reassessed the business of what really matters. What kind of clients do we want to work with? What kind of business do we want to be? And so it allowed me to take my personal learning, growth, and development through therapy, counseling, coaching, and then apply that in the business and try to create that same environment for the people that I was working for as well. And that set us on a very different path where we've been able to continue to grow, but to do it in a way that felt way more authentic to who we are and the direction that we wanted to go.
Do you think that as a business owner, like the founder, the CEO, the top of the company, the business model itself change upon your environment?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because if I don't love the business, how do I expect anyone else to? Right? Like the leader always sets the tone. So if I'm showing up authentically, other people will show up authentically. If I'm making decisions that are for everyone's benefit, not just my own, then other people make the same decisions. And so I really do think that those realizations absolutely changed the business model in terms of the specifics, in terms of what clients we would work with, what type of people would thrive in working at the agency, making hard decisions, moving things forward. So I think absolutely it changes the business model.
And for me, I also going through the same rabbit hole. I can totally relate. Like when you mentioned that you tried testing, sign up all the clients, I went there and I totally relate that when you mentioned that. We were talking about this offline, everyone. So I'm like, we definitely need to mention that. Because like, I believe that like agency can be one of the fastest growing business model, because it could be easy ways to like make sales and also fulfillment. But on the other hand, the fulfillment part can be also painful, because the one that you sign up for, if you don't evaluate them very well, you don't know what they are hidden when you serve them. Like that could be hard. So in that case, like after you verify better good fit for your company, how things change. I would love to hear that story. Like how things change in your fulfillment journey. That would be an amazing story.
Yeah, if you don't believe in your own product, you shouldn't be selling it.
Especially the brand, like, and it's hard though to build a brand. Like seriously, it's not the thing to take like, okay, brand designer just like finished making it and you just launch. Doesn't mean that the brand have been created.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that the brand exists. Like, what's the purpose of the product or service that you're bringing to the world beyond making money? And how do we bring that to life? Because that's what people connect with. And that's why they buy products and services from you. And so I think visualizing the brand is only a very small part of creating the brand. I think the first thing is having a product and service you actually believe adds value to people in the world, right? And then, yeah, you've still got to do some of like the visual branding that is in alignment with that as well. But I think that's where we need to start.
Yeah, because if not, you wouldn't have anything tangible that you could deliver in a real world at all. Because that would be the hardest thing that you can exchange for value or money later on. Another thing though, we also touched on this. I asked you about those who get viral these days, because this is something that people crave attention, right? Like the current currency would be eyeballs or like engagement as such. So overnight success could literally happen because they get more eyeballs this day, potentially easier. But how can they build more sustainably awareness of branding this day with authentic self, in your opinion?
I think to have a business that consistently delivers value to your customers that is sustainable beyond a marketing campaign or going viral, I think there are a few things that have to be in place. I think you have to understand your why for the business. You need to be able to articulate that clearly to both your customers and your employees, because if they don't align with your why, that's not going to work, right? There is something about your product or service that should be unique and different in the marketplace. And so typically I look for 3 to 5 things that are unique about your product. And any one of those things might be similar to the competition, but the combination of those 3 to 5 things really does make you unique. So that's where I think we get clarity on the business, clarity on the differentiation of your product or service. But then I actually think it's getting clear on who is your ideal customer, how does this serve them, and how do you consistently get this in front of them where they're engaged and want to consume or use your product or service. And it's just interesting. Most of the time people are trying to start their business and they haven't worked through those stages so that they can consistently execute against that. And the framework in the book that I found to be the most helpful, and it's a methodology that I've used in my own business, is the entrepreneurial operating system, or EOS, which is based on the book Traction. And I think a lot of people, it's not the only solution out there, but I think using something like that actually helps you build an actual business that you can execute against versus just getting lucky short term.
100%. So in case anyone would love to follow you or work with you, where can they reach out to you or find you then?
Yeah, personally, I'm the most active on LinkedIn. So just Jake Baadsgaard on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in having a conversation with the agency, we're pretty selective in who we work with. Like I said, we only work with people and brands that we believe in, but we add value to anyone that we talk to. So we're always happy to provide guidance, direction, and some strategy. And you can find us at disruptiveadvertising.com.
So the link will be around here, everyone. And this is like gold nuggets already. So make sure that you follow Jake on LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today, Jake. It's so honored to have you on the show.
Hey, thank you so much.
I hope this episode inspires you wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, so that you can have your business that supports your lifestyle. Get a show note at getunstuckmethod.com/podcast. Review what we have learned together today and start implementing right now. See it by yourself. The result of your consistent action are worth it. You deserve the freedom to enjoy your life. Until the next episode, let's get unstuck.